Okay, shalom. Really very exciting lesson, this lesson. Noah and psychedelics, unlocking hidden secrets. So we're going to be looking at how this whole concept of Noah and the concept of psychedelics, which is coming up more and more, is found within the Torah regarding what we've been looking at in the previous lessons, the whole concept of the suffering servant who is plagued, smitten by God and oppressed. Let's go have a look. This is phenomenal stuff. Really quite excited to be teaching things like this because there's so much wisdom that we need to start to unlock in order for us to understand the actual things that we are facing right now and to how to usher in final redemption. Indeed, he bore our illnesses and our pains, he carried them, yet we accounted him as plagued, smitten by God and oppressed. So we've already looked at this verse in a few lessons. We're out, but we didn't look at it all. There's loads and loads to look at, and we're going to link this into Noah right away. So accounted him as plagued, smitten by God and oppressed. Okay. These numbers, let me just bring up which number we're actually looking at. Okay, so we're concentrating on these, which are what's called the Mispar Gadol numberings, based on the Memso feet, changing from 40 to 600. So 1382 is the Mispar Gadol numbering. And it's exactly the same as Noah, and became Noach, a man of the earth. Noach is how we pronounce Noah in Hebrew. This has got a square ordinal of 1382. Okay, so we can see there's a direct relationship, connection between this whole concept of the suffering servant and the fact that Noach became a man of the earth. It's actually usually translated as like a master farmer or something like that. Let's go and have a look at the verses so that we know what we're talking about. And we're going to go straight in and have a look at this whole concept of psychedelics and Noach, because there's a lot to be learned from this kind of information. That we have a history that we've got to transform from the concealment that it is into a revelation. So Noach and the vine, there were three. These three were the sons of Noach, and from these the entire earth spread out. And Noach began to be a master of the soil. And he planted a vineyard, and he drank of the wine, and he became drunk, and he uncovered himself within his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw his father's nakedness and told his two brothers outside. So that's from Genesis 9:19-22. Very famous part of scripture regarding Noach, and then what happened to Canaan as a result, him being cursed. Okay, now from a Zohar esoteric point of view, there's some really very interesting things that have been said regarding this incident of Noach. So I'm just going to give you an overview. This is a title, obviously, to what we're going to go over when we're going to be talking about and looking at what is written in the Zohar and how this relates to the entire concept of this vine somehow representing mind-altering substances. Okay, it's called a vine, but it's really connected to mind-altering substances, which connect us back to an entire history to be found within Christianity, and it's also within Judaism and Islam. The use of mind-altering drugs in order to induce spiritual states, higher levels of consciousness. But however, we've got a big warning about that. We've just read, haven't we? We've just read those verses which resulted in Noah's sons becoming one of the sons who recognised his nakedness, who saw his nakedness. He then cursed the son who exposed him, who saw his exposed nakedness. So Noah and the vine, drugs and drink from trees and plants, etc., are not a way to attain high spiritual consciousness and perfect creation. Drugs lie. Okay, so in Hebrew, the word for drugs, samin, is spelt with a samech mem. What is Satan called in Hebrew? Samech mem. First two letters of drugs are samech mem. So we know there's a big indication in the Hebrew that drugs lie. So whatever spiritual experience people think that they're getting from psychedelics and from drugs, even from drink, there's an element of the lie involved in that. Okay, because we know from the actual word is giving some indication, samech mem. who's Samael. It means, it's another word for Satan, the evil inclination, our imagination. So we've got to be able to distinguish between our evil inclination, our imagination, that's rooted in the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and the good inclination, and our soul that is related in the tree, that is connected to the tree of life, the name Yod-Heh, Waw-Heh, the truth. Okay, so we've got to distinguish, right? But plants used correctly can bring healing to the body, and really the body is Lilith, Samael's partner, by the way. The Samael's wife is Lilith. She's the fallen aspect of humanity. That's another way of putting it, or the body, the physical reality. Okay, but we've got to be in healing for the body, because we have got to have peace between body and soul. So all this needs rectifying. We can't just abandon the work that has been set before us. We've got to complete it in a way that brings true lasting healing, not a quick fix or not a sticky band-aid over a gangrenous wound. Okay, let's go and have a look at this in the Zohar then. So this is from Noah. These are according, all right, Zohar 173a. Okay, these are according to Rabbi Ashlag's translation of the Zohar, the Solemn commentary. And Noah began to be a husbandman, okay, so farmer, and he planted a vineyard, which we've just read from Bereshith, Genesis 9:20. Rabbi Yehuda disagreed with Rabbi Yossi's interpretation of this verse. One said the vine was thrown out of the Garden of Eden, and that Noah planted it in the ground. The other said it is written, and he planted, because the vine had already been in the ground, and Noah plucked it from its place and replanted it elsewhere. It blossomed and gave fruit on the same day, and he squeezed the grapes, drank their wine, and got drunk. Okay, so obviously they're trying to tell us something is very significant regarding this particular vine. Okay, so it goes on. Rabbi Shimon said there is a sublime secret hidden in this passage. Noah had come to re-examine Adam's sin of the tree of knowledge. So the tree of knowledge, when he ate from the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, so that he could refrain from repeating it and could make corrections in the world. So it was greatly designed to hasten redemption. This is what is being said here. He wanted to open up some kind of portal to be able to access the deepest secrets regarding the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, so that he could understand it, so that he could repair the damage that Adam had done when he ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So I hope you're understanding what we've got involved in this. Noah has got a good intention. He's simply wanting to quickly repair this damage. He'd been on the ark. He'd seen the devastation, obviously, of what was caused by the sin of Adam and the consequences that fell out as a result of that. So he's desperate to repair this damage. But he was unable to accomplish this, however, because after squeezing the grapes so that he could examine them, he got drunk, was uncovered, and had no strength to get up. He couldn't return from this place, so he'd entered into the depths. And I've heard a Rabbi Alon Anover in a teaching going on about this exact concept of Noah going down into the depths of the earth to try and rectify Adam's sin, by trying to rectify all that Adam had created as a result of his sin. All these demons and different levels of beings, if you like, from the other side, the side of unholiness. And Noah actually wanted to rectify that in some way. Okay, so let's just read on. However, because of the squeezing the grapes so that he could examine them, he got drunk, was uncovered, and had no strength to get up. He couldn't return. We couldn't return, from this place or from this whatever he tried to accomplish with drinking these grapes. Even though it was a good intention, he couldn't return from it. He couldn't get up. He was totally drunk and incapacitated. This is why the verse says, and was uncovered, meaning that he uncovered a gap in the world which had been covered until that time. This is again going back to that portal, opening a portal up, possibly in his mind, to try and access, to try and access that place where Adam had caused damage as a result of eating of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, so that he could repair it in some way. Okay, so this had been covered up, but he, through this mind-altering substance that he's got codenamed drink, grapes, etc., it's linked back to the tree of knowledge of good and evil, by the way. It's indicating that he was trying to do something, but in a very quick way, through the use of some substance to enhance that or to make that possible. Okay? And was uncovered, meaning that he uncovered a gap in the world which had been covered until that time. He unlocked something in his own mind, maybe, within his tent. So this was all done within his tent. Okay, that's why it lends itself to considering that this is a mind-altering experience, because it all occurred within his own tent. His tent is spelt with the final hair. Okay, so that could even indicate, that aspect of all of us that are part of that fallen divine feminine, because that's what it's really indicating here. When it's the Hebrew word for tent is in the feminine as opposed to in the masculine. And it's really our body that's in the fallen state. It's our fallen state, if you like, that ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So there's some connection, even that it should have been his tent with a vav, but it wasn't. It was spelt in the feminine. So this is like the concept of, we've all got aspects of the divine feminine that are requiring rectification. Okay, and we're in a process of rectifying that final letter here and elevating her up so that there's union between the letter Vav and the letter He of the name Yod He Waw He. It is not spelled a halo with a Vav, i.e. in the masculine. Therefore it is written, and do not come near the door of her house. This is from Proverbs 5:8 or Mishle 5:8. His tent, indicating the vineyard's tent, and not his own tent. For this reason, it is spelled with a he and not with a vav. So there's possibly an indication it's referring to the fallen Shekinah, or the Shekinah of the other side, something connected up to Lilith, basically, or Eve in a fallen state. It's the fallen aspect of divinity, isn't it? It's the fallen aspect of feminine divinity that is somehow tried to access and repair. Okay, something along those lines. Very mystical teachings. I mean, you can read a lot into that. And it's all coded messages. I've talked about this a lot. The Zohar is not written in a way that can easily be accessed. It's all coded messages, and you've somehow to decipher this language, which is called the language of the branches. Okay, so it can't be taken at face value. You've got to read things into it. And like I said, there's possibly lots and lots in there, but I want you to just understand that it's something connected with this quickening, if you like, trying to quicken redemption by sorting out problems, but trying to sort those problems out in a way that is not the plan or the will of Yod He Waw He. He has got a plan for rectifying the entire of creation. He is working in accordance to that plan. And there is really no quick fix to this. It will come when He wills it, when we are ready to receive that revelation and that redemption, that revelation of His name and that redemption, because we've been completely and totally healed properly. Not some quick fix, not some mind-altering drug that tells us now we're okay when we're really not. Okay, not to get us all drug addicts and addicted to pills that make us feel better. We're talking about an actual, complete, total healing from the trauma of the sin of eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil for the entire of humanity and for the benefit of the whole of creation. Okay, it's not a quick fix. This takes time. True healing takes time. Okay, but we are in very safe hands. We are in very safe hands. We don't need to worry. we are being healed. Every moment of every day we are being healed. Okay, so PK de Rabbi Eliezer 23. Noah found a vine that had been banished from the Garden of Eden along with its clusters. He took of its fruit and ate and desired them in his heart. He planted a vineyard with it the same day its fruit flourished. He drank of its wine and was exposed in the tent. Noah's sin resembled the sin of Adam, who also ate from the vine. When he sought to probe the sin of Adam, Noah attempted to explore the tree of knowledge of good and evil in order to repair the damage done by Adam. In Kabbalah, the tree symbolises the Shekinah. So we're talking about the divine feminine again, who would be unified with the other Sefirot, especially with her partner Tifereth, that's the letter Vav. So we're talking about that unity between heaven and earth, the Vav and the Shekinah, via Yesod, symbolised by the tree of life. Adam's sin was that he separated her from her partner, in effect banishing her from the garden and exposing her and the world to demonic forces. Okay, Noah repeated this sin, basically. So he went to try and repair this damage by bringing unity between the letter Vav and the letter He. He did it in a way that was not correct. It resulted in him repeating the sin of Adam, creating separation between the letter Vav and the letter He. Okay, so lots to learn about that. I just wanted to pull up some of these images because there is, like, going back to this whole concept of psychedelics, there's a massive, massive history. It's often a very hidden history. Not many people speak about it, but it is coming to the forefront more and more. And there's people that are writing books, and there's lots of videos now on the internet talking about the whole Christian understanding of what the tree of knowledge is. Basically, within Christianity, especially within not the Gnosticism, you've got this concept where the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is a mushroom, basically the fly agaric mushroom, Amanita muscaria. Okay, so this here, a Christian fresco showing the Amanita muscaria as the tree of good and evil in the Garden of Eden. So again, we've got this concept within Christianity itself of, and there's a massive history when you look into it. It's unbelievable. I was shocked to understand just to the degree with which there has been this hidden kind of association, if you like, with certain Christian sects and the use of psychedelics and specifically mushrooms. Okay, so you've got the Cathars of France, a Gnostic sect. I'm pretty sure that this stained glass window is from that region of France where the Cathars practiced their Gnostic beliefs. Okay, and they were the way that they were treated, by the way, during, I think it's the Inquisition. I've only listened to part of the video, but it's just utterly and absolutely shocking and diabolical. The way that these people were treated, the Cathars of France, absolutely horrendous. But they had a culture of using magic mushrooms to access higher levels of spiritual awareness. It's just an absolute fact. It's very much rooted. There's a lot of historical evidence for that. And then you've got all these ancient arts contained within Christianity that depict mushrooms, hidden mushrooms. They're all over the place. You'll find them in, all these images. You'll even find them in images of the Last Supper and things like this. And all this is like giving people mushrooms. Obviously, we can see mushrooms here. It's everywhere. There's loads. I mean, I've just picked up a few. But there's really loads and loads of evidence. There was a knowledge, if you like, within certain sects within Christianity, early Christianity, where mushrooms were very much associated with messianic consciousness. And even some people have gone as far as to say that Jesus Christ was a mushroom. There's a whole book. We will just touch on that very briefly. I mean, I think that is crossing the line a little bit, but you just need to be aware that within Christianity there's this massive culture, hidden culture, if you like, associating Christianity and mysticism with the use of magic mushrooms. Okay. So, Gnostics and mushrooms, addictive lifestyles, habits, and religions to bandage the wounds of exile. So, we're really looking for a quick fix, just like Noah. He wanted a quick fix. This is an horrific situation that we have found ourselves in. Humanity has found ourselves in the absolute depths of despair, hell on earth. Who wouldn't be looking for a solution, a quick solution to rectify this problem? However, there is not a quick solution to this. There is absolutely no the level of repair is so extensive that it takes time. It's like multiple operations that you need to go through when you have been so damaged. You can't just put a sticky bandage over the problems humanity are facing. You need the healing needs to go at the deepest core level possible, and from the inside out. However, I've said this many times, eventually when we do get towards the end, we can use all these things. And I've mentioned even, there's a lot of research nowadays. We're in very traumatized states of consciousness. We are very, very traumatized. Each and every one of us has inherited 6,000 years of sheer hell on earth. And that trauma is actually impregnated into our DNA. So we are living at hyper levels of what's called hypervigilance, where our stress hormones are released in an instant. We're getting our bodies flooded with adrenaline and cortisol and stress hormones. And we are being continually bombarded with information that induces our body to release elevated levels of adrenaline and cortisol. We're trapped in a cycle of stress and anxiety and depression, and we cannot seem to escape it effectively without the use of mind-numbing drugs. Okay, mind-numbing drugs. Yet there is research out there to suggest that the medical use of magic mushrooms are effective in reprogramming those hyper levels of trauma that we have inherited through the experience of simply being born a human in this time in which we have been born. So I am not opposed to psychedelics, and I think everything has got its time. And I think that towards the end, where we do need to be healed from some of this psychological trauma that we've all experienced, then we can definitely and absolutely 100% look to the use of plants and even possibly mushrooms. I mean, I'm not 100% for you. I'd rather use leaves, because that is the instruction that we got given to us through the Torah. The Torah makes it very clear to use leaves. However, when you look deeper into this whole concept of the healing tree, the mushrooms are a part of the tree. There's a symbiotic relationship between trees and mushrooms. They're in constant communication and dialogue within each other. It's the trees are feeding the mushrooms, and the mushrooms are helping the trees allocate and distribute nutrients to their saplings and things like that. So there is a definite communication that happens, and you could really consider that the mushrooms are a part of the tree. And the tree is there for healing, 100%. So I'm all for that. And I'm all for, I have used, when I've suffered massive levels of trauma in my life, the things that I've used are frankincense and myrrh. I've burnt frankincense. Literally, I've bought the best quality frankincense from Oman and places like that. And the most wonderful quality of myrrh, and plus the essential oils, not just the actual incense like the sap that you can get, and then you crush it up and burn it on an incense burner, and it's absolutely delightful. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. You never get a big hit. You never feel it's altering your mind, but over time, this wonderful fragrance, it has got a very gradual mind altering effect, so that it can help alleviate some of those tensions that life on earth creates, and it can start to reprogram your brain. And I've used that for a lot of years, and to very great effect. And we know that there is use of this within the Torah. Okay, so we're not permitted to copy the actual incense that is used in the Holy of Holies, but I've no problem in using frankincense and myrrh. and I think we was given indication even in the New Testament of the use of that, the effective use of frankincense and myrrh, because they were the gifts that were given by the Magi, the wise ones, to Moshiach, Yeshua, Messiah, son of Joseph. So I'm all for that, by the way. I'm not opposed to it at all. I 100% believe in the healing power of plants. I have used plant medicine for well over 20 years and have been somebody that's very interested in the science of medical herbalism, as opposed to the synthetic pharmacological drugs that we get poisoned with nowadays. Anyway, let's go back to this whole concept of the Gnostics and mushrooms. So, in 1970, the famed Dead Sea Scroll scholar John Marco Allegro published the following series of articles in the London Sunday Mirror UK. I'm going to show you a website where you can access all this for yourself if you're interested in any way. The series of articles was to announce that Christianity is based on a fertility mushroom drug cult and that Yeshua, Jesus, was none other than a mushroom himself. Like I said, there are bizarre. He might have had a few mushrooms too many himself. But anyway, there is some truth in what he's saying. We've got very clear evidence to suggest that certain aspects of Christianity had this association with the use of mushrooms, mind-altering substances. So this is just a couple of examples that are taken off books. I'm pretty sure that this is from his book, and I'll show you the website after I've just read these next two. The prime example of the relation between the serpent and the mushroom is, of course, in the Garden of Eden story of the Old Testament. The cunning reptile prevails upon Eve and her husband to eat of the tree, whose fruit made them as gods, knowing good and evil. So you can even... There are definite... I've heard testimonies of people who've had like this mind-altering drugs. I can't quite bring it to mind now. I've been listening to it so many times. Anyway, this particularly, they go out into the jungles and the rainforest and they have this particular... It's DMT basic. I can't quite remember the name. It's just gone from me. They can get it from a toad or you can get it from a mixture of a couple of different plants and vines or whatever, and people speak as if they have actually interacted with a god of some sort. Very, very powerful mind altering experiences. Okay, very what they consider as hyper spiritual experiences. Okay, I don't know whether these are, well, I 100% do know, these are not the kind of spiritual experiences we should be seeking. Okay, they're not the kind of spiritual sequence in themselves. Because going back to that word drugs, being the samech mem, there's information that we can gain in there that could be lies. So you're dealing with the concept of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. There may be some truth in what you have experienced. There may be actual real spiritual truth to what you have experienced, but 100% guaranteed there will be a mixture of truth and lies. And you will not be able to discern the difference. And this will keep us in tree of knowledge of good and evil consciousness, and we, as long as we are trapped and bound by that experience, we will never be free to experience the tree of life experience, which is only via Torah and the name Yod He Waw He. We can't access it any other way. We can use plants to heal us, to be able to liberate us from our exilic mindsets that then allow us to enter into higher levels of consciousness and awareness of the name Yod He Waw He, but it doesn't come via drugs. There may be a necessary healing process that we've got to go through in order to access that tree of life, to heal in order to access that tree of life, but it's certainly not taking drugs in and of themselves in order to gain some, instant trip, if you like. It is literally a trip. You've tripped up. The prime example of the relationship between... All right, we've got up to this already, haven't we? The whole Eden story is mushroom-based mythology, not least in the identity of the tree as a sacred fungus, as we shall see. Even as late as the 13th century, some recollection of the old tradition was known among Christians. To judge from a fresco painted on the wall of a ruined church in, I don't know how to pronounce that, Plain Carol in France. There, the Amanita muscaria, fly agaric, is gloriously portrayed entwined with serpent whilst Eve stands holding her belly. That's the fresco that we looked at prior to this particular slide. And then this is taken as well from, I just picked these paragraphs up off the internet because I thought that was interesting. They certainly definitely interested me. Short excerpts of the text from Origen's Contra Celsus, Book 6, Chapter 24 to 38. I hope I've pronounced all that right. I'm not familiar with it, to be honest. So Celsus says there is a diagram consisting of 10 or 7 separate circles circumscribed by one circle, which is said to be the world soul, and it is called Leviathan. Okay, so Leviathan figures very heavily in the concept of Gnosticism. The diagram is divided by a thick black line which is called Gehenna, or the Greek Tartarus. The seal is that of the one who imposes it, who is called the Father. The one sealed is called Youth and Son. And he responds, I have been anointed with the white chrism from the tree of life. And then the notes to that is, chrism also refers to myrrh and holy anointing oil. However, given the understanding with Gnostics, it would seem that perhaps he is talking about fly agaric, as this is seen as the tree of life. Okay, so there is a little bit of contradiction because I've been told the tree, you can research it, the tree of knowledge is called the fly agaric. So here it's saying that the fly agaric is the tree of life. Okay, so you might need to do some research of your own to find out that the distinction. But I definitely know, as we saw from those images of Eve, etc., what we've got up here, it's the tree of knowledge that's associated with the fly agaric. But here we've got evidence that the fly agaric is also associated with the tree of life. So Gnosticism, there's a little bit of jumbled up information in amongst all that. It's just really to highlight the fact that these are very ancient Christian texts we're talking about. So this goes back a long time to the very beginnings and foundation of Christianity. This is a hidden history that goes right back to the very beginning, and they've left a trail of witnesses through the art and these different frescoes and stained glass windows and they've left and stone statues even, and all kinds of different ways that they've left this hidden history for us to see, and they've hidden these mushrooms in the art to a certain extent. A lot of it's hidden. You need to have eyes to be able to see. So they've been communicating this is a big part of Christian tradition. What does that mean exactly? It obviously hasn't been the whole of Christianity. It certainly has not. There has been, and not the whole of Christianity is based on a cult that's to do with mushroom worship. However, the fact that they've gone to such degrees to hide this and kill anybody that has associated, that is practicing the use of mushrooms for elevated states of consciousness, it's very telling in and of itself. However, I am interested in it is because we've got it clearly rooted and evidenced in Torah. It clearly links back to the whole story of Noah. This is very, very, very ancient. We're going back to the very beginnings of humanity. We're talking about Noah trying to rectify the sin of Adam and Eve. And there's some connection in some way through the esoteric teachings to allow us to understand that this was Noah tried to do something along the lines of entering a portal via a mind-altering substance in order to understand exactly what the sin of Adam is regards eating the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, and it's all connected. Okay, so we've got to understand, right? Why is this? Why has this even been embedded within Torah? And then we've got another episode within the Torah. If it was just Noah, we could say that was a long time ago. And that's not relative to us since leaving Egypt, but there's another very, very, very classic tale of this, and it's linked to the whole story of Nadav and Abihu, who, burnt some strange incense and then perished on the day of the, erection of the tabernacle in the wilderness. It's all incredible stuff. This strange fire and stuff like that. And then immediately after that, you're told, do not drink strong drink and go into the Holy of Holies. So you've got this warning again, haven't you? This strong drink, that is mind-altering. Alcohol is mind-altering. And it could easily be a code name for any mind-altering substance whatsoever that somehow Nadav and Abihu, according to the sages, consumed on the 8th day, which is very symbolic, of that's humanity reaching the 8th day, the total correction of all creation above nature, total perfect spiritual dimension, what is codenamed the 8th day. And so, you're thinking to yourself, just wait on a minute, were they trying to, like Noah, quickly, they saw this as an opportunity, the inauguration of the tabernacle as some kind of way, some portal, and again we're going back to the word ohel, tent. This was in Noah's tent. The tabernacle is referred to as the tent. Okay, so we've got that connection again. Were they trying to open up this portal again to try and access that realm in a quick way through like mind-altering drugs to try and, at this opportune time, which obviously was very favourable in their eyes because this was the time where heaven was going to come down to earth at the inauguration of the Holy Temple. Did they say that as an opportunity to completely rectify all the problems that Adam had caused when he ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? But they was trying to do it in a quick way. And obviously the sages point out there is a connection between what they did and drinking strong drink, because directly after that incident you warned, do not take strong drink and go into the holies of holies unless you die. So this can't be done in a quick way. There is no quick way to just access superior levels of spirituality and somehow try to rectify the fallen state of Adam. It's all according to the will of Yod-Heh-Wah in a proper, holistic way. Okay, not just a quick fix. The healing will be real and permanent. It won't be a temporary quick fix. A real, permanent, everlasting change for all humanity to be elevated up to the highest levels of consciousness and even go beyond that Adam and Eve had in the Garden of Eden prior to their fall. Okay, so we're talking about something that obviously takes time, and there's a lot of people that want to rush that, don't they? They want to enter into these, they want to enter into these portals, whatever they might be, time altering portals. I have no idea because I don't take drugs and have no experience of these psychedelic experiences. I only can tell you what I've experienced through having frankincense and myrrh, and how that my own healing has taken a long time. I never took the pharmacological drugs when I suffered from stress and anxiety and depression and trauma, and I was diagnosed actually with what's called complex trauma because it was multiple high-level traumatic events one after another, and the result of that was complex trauma, extreme levels of stress hormones just continually pumping into my body and causing great deals of problems, physiological and psychological problems as a result. I had to do something, and I turned to plants for help. Okay, so lavender even, anything to reduce the effects of having elevated levels of stress hormones pumped through your body and the whole really negative effect that had. but it took me a lot longer. I did things like going wild swimming in the cold waters, just immersing myself taking myself into the most beautiful places I could find in nature and immersing myself and connecting to that wonderful place. And overcoming my fears, going and swimming into the middle of a loch where you don't even know how deep it goes and things like that, and just immersing into that environment. So that was part of it. Going out walking, breathing in the fresh air, seeing the lovely nature around us, the clouds and everything. And gardening, there's ways, like Noah was it says he became a man of the earth. Go out and do your gardening. Even the soil can alleviate, just getting connected to the soil and all the microbes or whatever is present in soil. It's like a natural antidepressant. So there are things that we can do that take a lot longer. You're not going to have an instant transformation. We're talking about years. You've got to invest some years. Once you've hit an all-time low, you like I always used to say, imagine myself as being a massive ship. When you're trying to turn a massive ship around in the sea, you can't just quickly turn it round. Sometimes you've got to go miles and miles and miles and miles and miles and miles in order to turn a massive ship around. It can take a long time. So you just got to invest in that and be realistic. You're going to do more damage than good if you try and rush the healing process. You simply just have to go one step at a time in the right direction and do it in a very holistic way and invest your life into that healing process rather than invest your life in drugs that mask over the problem ultimately. Okay? There it is. There is no quick fix to the problem of exile. It is an holistic, slow, methodical, natural approach to healing the psychological and physiological trauma of exile and the consequences of sin by removing one bandage at a time. This is phenomenal wisdom that has been laid down in the Talmud. You would pass it by if you did not connect it to this, what I've just gone through. The use of mind-altering drugs. Like, I want to stress this, like I've said, there will be a place at the right time, in the right dose, for all these things to be brought in a holy way. I'm talking about applications of this type of medicine, like psychedelic medicine, in a very unholy way to accomplish something that simply can't be realistically accomplished by a use in that way. Okay? But there's a time and a place for everything. And there's always, for every holy thing, there's always an unholy counterpart. So sometimes what we don't know is we don't get given what the holy what is the holy remedy in this situation. We just get the unholy version of it, and we've got to transform what's unholy into something that is holy. So we can take these use of psilocybin and things like that in the right way, in the right manner, for the right intentions at the right time to accomplish that in an unholy context would add more damage to the problem. But like I say, in the actual Talmud, you've got this phenomenal wisdom that we're going to have a look at now. You would never ever associate, you'd read past this, and then when I was reading about this whole Noah thing and Nadav and Abihu and trying to rush and enter into mind-altering states and go through mystical portholes, I have no idea. It all sounds a little bit bizarre to me, but this is what goes on. This is what has gone on. This is what we've got evidence in Torah that people are trying to do. There's negative consequences for it. Nadav and Abihu died. Aaron's sons died. Noah was disgraced. Okay, they didn't get it right. But why is it still left in Torah for us? Because it's telling us that there is a holy counterpart to that unholiness. We've got to have the wisdom to understand what the holy counterpart is. The holy counterpart is to be found in the truth, not in lies. Okay, so one bandage at a time, the holy remedy. This is phenomenal, by the way. And like I say, you'd pass it by if you didn't associate it with what I've just spoken about. Rabbi Joshua ben Levi said to Elijah, when will the Messiah come? Elijah said to him, go ask him. Rabbi Joshua ben Levi asked, and where is he sitting? Elijah said to him, "At the entrance of the city of Rome." Rabbi Joshua ben Levi asked him, "And what is his identifying sign, by means of which I can recognize him?" Elijah answered, now listen to this, it's unbelievable. "He sits among the poor who suffers from illnesses." So there we've got the connection to what we've just been looking at, plagued, smitten by God and oppressed. Okay. And all of them untie their bandages and tie them all at once, i.e., it's a rush job, isn't it? Think about bandages. Why do you have bandages on? You have bandages on. They're there for healing purposes, aren't they? So obviously we've all got loads of bandages with us. We're all sick to death of exile. We've all suffered immeasurable amounts of trauma and stress and anxiety. We're fed up. We want out of this whole situation. We just want a quick fix. Okay, most of us are in that state. We'll just take anything that's said, anything going. And it will pop up any amount of pills to just get the hell out of this horrific ordeal we've experienced in exile. Okay. The majority of people are at this place, and all of them will tie their bandages and tie them all at once. It's a rush job. They're thinking about just themselves, basically. But the Messiah, the difference is then the Messiah, and we need to get to messianic levels of thinking. We need to imitate Messiah. We need to be like Moshiach. What does Moshiach do? He says he unties one bandage and ties one at a time. So he's aware that redemption is not going to be something that can be rushed. Why? He says, "Perhaps I will be needed to serve to bring about the redemption. Therefore, I will never tie more than one bandage so that I will not be delayed." He's passing on a lot of wisdom in this. It's all hidden wisdom, because what is he really saying? He's saying this. If this could be translated for our time today, what he's saying is this. Okay, so I know there is a lot of healing that needs to occur. Our whole body is battered and bruised and needs many bandages to cover it. We have got stress, we have got trauma, we've got depression, we've got all kinds of mental illness that result then in all kinds of physical illnesses. We are sick from top to toe, okay, from head to toe. We have got so many bandages. Humanity is in need of so many bandages. And this is that macrocosmic level. And then even in our own life, we have got so many bandages. We've got so many open wounds that we need to cover up. We've got so much trauma that we've suffered from this exile. So much loss and agony. We're covered from head to toe in bandages. However, how does Messiah approach this? One bandage at a time. Look, just focus on one of these ailments. Let's change the bandage. Let's get this healed and sorted. And once you have the mindset that you have just got to take your healing in a slow way, one symptom at a time, one illness at a time, deal with this as effectively as you possibly can. And he's given us an indication that we might not even need to be fully healed until redemption comes. We simply need to be patient and deal with the symptoms we are suffering, one condition at a time, one bandage at a time. It's just mentally we've got to be in that place where we are aware that we cannot completely heal ourselves in one complete go. There is no quick fix to this problem. You've got one wound, you're suffering from stress. Let's just deal with that. Let's think, what are the causes to this stress? Let's get you the help that you needed. Go get the psychological help that you need to deal with this. Go get the counselling. Go get the right books. Let's think about what plants and what medication could be taken, holistic medications or holistic therapies that could help heal you of this particular problem that you are experiencing exile. Okay, so let's just deal with it one bandage at a time. Being aware of this level of consciousness, that sometimes healing comes holistically and slowly, is part of the actual healing itself. It's a massive transition to just take that step back and know all you can do. If you want to be like Messiah, deal with one problem at a time. one problem at a time, but deal with it effectively. Because even when you're in that state where you are aware of the insurmountable problems that humanity faces, as long as you're dealing with something effectively and holistically, redemption can come at any time. And you see, as much as we bear these sufferings now, in the blink of an eye, our Father in heaven can intercede in this situation to bring about complete redemption. We only need to set our hand to the plough, and we only need to be doing things in the right holistic way that brings peace to body and soul. Okay? And it's right there, written in the Talmud. This is Sanhedrin 98a, I think. It says, perhaps I will be needed to serve and bring about the redemption. It basically doesn't mean me. It's what the wisdom in this is. It doesn't matter even if we're not completely healed. What matters is the mindset that we have got regards our healing. That we know there are no quick fixes to any problem that we face in life. The difference between slave mentality is when you feel you're a slave to these problems and you are looking for quick fixes to that slave-like mentality that you have adopted towards this problem, instead of being like Moshiach and thinking, I've got a lot of bandages here, however I'm going to untie them one by one, because even in my state where I am covered from head to toe in bandages, redemption can still come as long as I am dealing with my problems in the way that is effective and holistic and everlasting, like dealing with them one at a time. And at any time in that process, as long as it's like the prodigal son returns. You know, he only needed to wake up to and recognise this place where he was at was not the place he belonged. He was the king's son. He belonged in the palace of the king. He only needed to make he only needed to make the provision to return. He didn't get all the way home before his father came out and met him and brought him into the palace with him. So we've got that to bear that we've got to reach that place, that level of shalom within ourselves where we're dealing with our realities as effectively as we can, and we're applying the most effective remedies to the problems that we are facing. But we're not trying to do everything in a rush job all at once. We're certainly not trying to put on a mask, and pretend that we haven't got these problems, which we have got. Messiah himself is sitting in the gates of Rome with all the poor who suffer from illnesses. He's not running from his problems. He is not going about his daily business pretending those problems are not there. He is acknowledging the problems that humanity faces, and he's doing something about it. But he's also got that hope that at any instant he could be called to usher in redemption. And even in a state where he's obviously still got bandages, he's not looking for himself to be completely perfected. He's just simply there, enduring part of the healing process, and very aware that in any stage of that healing process he could be called to bring about the redemption. We've got to have that same attitude. It's not like Noah going out and sorting all the problems out and rectifying all the sins of Adam. We might not fully reach that place before redemption is ushered in, but we've just got to be seen to be doing it in a holistic and lasting way. And as long as we're doing and sorting out the problems that are our own problems, we don't need to sort out all the world's problems. The Messiah's only unwrapping his own bandages. He's not going around. He's sat with all the others. He doesn't say he's going around and wrapping all the bandages of everybody else. He's simply sorting out the problems within his own life. He's taking off his own bandages one by one. That's what we've got to do. We got to think. You want healing for all humanity? Simply focus on yourself. The healing, the everlasting healing and the rectification that you accomplish in your life will affect the entire of humanity. We are told that the microcosmic effect, it's like the butterfly effect, isn't it? I'm not going to go into that now, but you can look it up on the internet. Butterfly effect. You know, something small that we do here can have a massive impact in another place. Like the butterfly can flap its wings, and somewhere else that can be expressed as a hurricane. You know, the wind caused by a butterfly flapping its wings, somewhere else it can be expressed as a hurricane. You unwrapping one bandage one by one and sorting this problem out as best as you can with all the professional help that's available, with looking to holistic, natural, Torah-based remedies to the problem, you're going to be like the butterfly effect. You're going to cause a massive outpouring of the Ruach HaKodesh, the wind, the holy wind, somewhere else in the world. And that's what we've got to focus on. It's not like we don't have to sort all the problems out for all humanity. You know, we just got to sort the problems out one by one in our own lives, and this will impact all of humanity without us even needing to think even in that way. Sort out what's in your own life. Unwrap the bandages one by one in your own life. Be like the Moshiach. Don't be looking for ways to sort out all everybody's problems in one big, massive psychedelic hit. It's not going to happen that way. So this is great wisdom that's laid down for us in the Talmud. I think it's absolutely wonderful. Just a quick look at some of these numbers. Unties one and ties one. So this is taken from up here. This is the Messiah who ties one and unties one, unlike the others. 811, 127. Okay, I'm just going to put something up now because I've forgotten to do it. Right, I've just brought this up. The fact that the 127 is exactly the same as the ordinal filling out of Yeshua. Okay, the one who unties and ties one, Yeshua, Moshiach, ben Yosef, suffering servant. 811 is the regular. It's exactly the same as Hashishi, as in the sixth day. So we're in a cycle of rectification that is related to the 6 days of creation, which parallels 6,000 years of rectification. Okay, so we can't rush the job. There's a time frame involved. That time frame was ordained by Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. All we can do is right at the end. It says, because in its time I will hasten it. I will hasten redemption in its time. We've got to get to in its time. So we've got to get to right at the end of that 6,000 period cycle, which we are right at the end. Okay? So that's just to bear in mind. It can't be a rush job. Everything's got to be holistic, permanent, and within its time. So obviously, where do we get this? We've got a square ordinal of 1007. We've got 57, which is HaMoshiach, the ordinal of HaMoshiach, the Messiah. If we add those two together, we get 1064. No, it's not that number that we're looking at, is it? It's this one. So if we take the 1007, which is the square ordinal, and add it onto the regular, we come to 1622, which is 2 times 811. Okay, this number, by the way, which is the regular and the ordinal, the square ordinal added together, 1679, is exactly the same as one of the spellings out of Yosef filled to the second fill-in. When the letter Samech is filled out, Samech Mem Chet. Sometimes it can be spelled out Samech Mem Chaf. Okay, which is usually spelled out Samech Mem Chaf, but it can be spelled out Samech Mem Chet. Okay, in this instance, it comes to exactly the same. This is the whole suffering servant, Moshiach ben Yosef again. Okay, so there is a time frame involved that can't be rushed. There's no portal that can be unlocked to get us to the end of redemption in a quick way, mind-altering way. Because we've got some knowledge of what the sin of Adam was. This is not what unlocks it. The rectification is a slow, holistic, from the ground up experience of rectification. Sambachon River. This is the most important. Aspect of rectification. This basically means that we have all inherited lies. We have all inherited an exilic mindset. Whether that exilic mindset comes, none of us is inherited all the truth. that would give us what's called a Hebrew mindset, that would enable us to cross this Sambation River. The Sambation River is the river that needs to be crossed in order for the lost house of Israel to return to the promised land. Okay, we're wanting to get to the promised land. We're wanting to get to that place of redemption. We're wanting to get out of the desert wanderings. We've got to get over this Sambation River. These are the lost tribes of Israel. We're all lost to some degree because we've all been stuck in exile. We've all been scattered to the four corners of the world. And even when we think that we have arrived back in the land of Israel, I've been to the land of Israel 20 times. It doesn't necessarily equate with being in the land of Israel in terms of from a Torah perspective, because we can still be exiled. We can still have exilic mindsets. We need to have Hebrew mindsets. Okay, so we've got to get over this Sambation River. It's all coded message. Sambation River is just to get over the slave mentality that we have adopted whilst we have been slaves to exile. And it doesn't matter whether it's the Jewish people stuck in Erev slave mentality, the Christians stuck in Edomite slave mentality, or the Muslims stuck in Ishmaelite slave mentality, or any of the nations stuck as slaves to the mindsets that they've inherited. You know, the polytheistic mindsets, the animistic mindsets. You know, we're slaves and we need to be free. We need to be Hebrews in order to be truly free. So we've got to get over what's called the Sambation River, and it's basically going from the place from where we was born, the exile into which we were born into, or the exile into which we inherited, and it's becoming a Hebrew, going against that we inherited. Like Abraham was born into an idol worshipping nation and an idol worshipping family who actually made idols. He was able to get to the other side of the river. He was the first Hebrew, and it means he got to he's from the other side of the river. He was the place where he identified with was not the place into which he had born, the mentality into which he was born. Like us in the West have been born into the Greco-Roman mindset of Edom, Rome, with Roman dominion. Even things like the government of USA, it's called a Senate, that's Roman. That's a Roman Senate, it's got its origins in Rome. The whole church is based, it's got its origins in Rome. It doesn't matter what way it tries to disconnect from its Roman influence, it's got heavily Roman influence. Okay, you've got to leave that behind. You've got to become like a Hebrew. You've got to immerse yourself in the words of Torah and the Hebrew language to such a degree that you're able to unlock yourself from the influences that you inherited and the lies that you were inherited as a consequence. And that's why it is to get over the Sambation River. And it's also to get from a place of where we are attached to the name Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh on the left-hand side of divinity with Gevurah. I talked about this in previous lessons, so I'm not going over it. We've got to get to the right-hand side. We've got to start to relate to the name Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh through kindness. We've got to be aware that we've got to be aware of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh through the attribute of kindness, not just through the attribute of harsh punishments of exile. So we've got to see that as if you've got the tree of life and Gevurah at this side, and you've got the central column, and then Chesed at this side, crossing the Sambation River, it can be codenamed, for example, from getting from a state where we're subject to the harsh punishments of exile, what's called Gevurah, and we cross over and we're attached to the kindness, we're aware of the kindness of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, as opposed to the punishments that are afflicted upon us because of our sin. We're aware of the kindness that he desires to bestow upon us because we are children of the living God, and no father would want to do anything other than that. So sometimes when we are in a place of concealment, where the name Yod-Heh-Wah is not revealed to us, we've got to get to a place where his name is concealed from us, to a place where his name is revealed from us. And the Sephira of Gevurah really represents the Sephira that conceals the name Yod-Heh-Wah, as opposed to Chesed, which reveals the name of Yod-Heh-Wah. It's all about the name Yod-Heh-Wah. There's nothing else but that. So to cross the Sambation River is just to become conscious of the name of Yod-Heh-Wah in a revealed way through the attribute of Chesed, kindness. And we've got to imitate that kindness with every thought, word and deed that we do. And sometimes when we are not well, sometimes when we've got mental illnesses to battle with, we can't think about being kind to anybody else. So we've got to go through a healing process in order for us to be able to think kind, speak kind, and do kindness to others. We've got to experience healing in our body. Because when our body is stressed up and anxious and traumatized, we're just simply looking at ways to survive. And when you're looking at ways to survive, you can't be thinking about anybody else. You're in the depths yourself. You're like a cork bobbing on the water out at sea, all awash. You can't think about saving anybody else or redeeming another person. You can't act as a redeemer in a person's life when you're drowning yourself. So we've got to move from that place where we feel like we're drowning ourselves to be able to get to a place where we can actually help somebody else who's in a distressful situation. You know, we've got to cross that Sambatian river. And I've said this before, the way that we get across, we've got to attach to the forefathers Abraham, Yitzhak and Yaakov, and we've got to haul ourselves from one side, from concealment over to revelation. And we've got to use the very thing that conceals the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh to reveal his name. We've got to attach the concept of Moshiach. It's all glorious, by the way. 177 is Gan Eden. We've got to get back to Gan Eden. A Gan Eden consciousness. You know, where we know who we are, we're not afraid, we're not hiding from Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, because what? Because we've got some bandages that stink. We would hide from the Father that loves us. We need him to get and help us. You know, we might be sitting in the gates of Rome or the spiritual equivalent with the poor and the suffering, but that doesn't mean to say that's who we are. We've got to remember who we are. Moshiach was sat there, but he knew who he was, because he knew at any moment he could be called to be the Redeemer himself. So he's obviously conscious, yeah, he's sat there suffering with the poor and the suffering in the gates of Rome, the place of absolute total filth and depravity. That's what it symbolises. The depth of exile. But he didn't forget who he was. Even though he was reduced to bandaging up his wounds, he didn't forget who he was. We haven't got to forget who we are. We don't belong in a place of concealment from the name Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. We've got to do something to get back to the place where we belong, in a place of revelation, imitating his name, because we are made in his image. We are made to imitate his name. We are made to be kind to others. We are made to be like redeemers. We have got the spark of Moshiach within us. We have got his name within us. That's what that means. Okay, so Gan Eden consciousness, we've got to not forget who we are. We've not got to be overwhelmed by the fact that we're sitting in the gates of Rome. So is Moshiach. And he hasn't forgotten who we are, who he is. We don't need to be forgetting who we are too. We've just got to get on and bandage our wounds one by one. There's no quick fix. We're here until we're called to redeem. The regular and the regular here, plus the Mispar Gadol, regular and ordinal, comes to 1084, which is exactly the same as Moshiach ben Dawid, spelt the Mispar Gadol of Moshiach ben Dawid, taking into consideration the final nun of Ben, son. But it's got a square ordinal Sambation of the sixth day, i.e. we're in a period of time that we've got to observe until we get to that final seventh day of rest. But it's linked up, look. Sambatian River. We unties one and ties one. Okay, getting across that Sambatian River, because he might be called to be a redeemer. A redeemer to what? A redeemer to somebody else's misery. You know, he might be called to say some kind words to somebody else. It's like my mum was widowed and she suffered an horrific ordeal to overcome. She was very shocked. My stepfather died in a very tragic way. It was an accident at work, and then it cast her into this horrific depression and grieving and mourning. And now, today, we're going to another friend who's recently been widowed, and my mum is helping her to get over. So she had to go bandage all her wounds up, and it took a long time. But then, one by one, you bandage the problems, and she's not 100% healed herself. She's still got consequences of this shock and trauma that she had to experience. But now she's going and helping a friend who's in the absolute bottom depths of her despair. And that's what we've got to do. It's just simple things like that that heal the whole world for good. Acts of kindness. And acts of sacrifice. But there's one time where my mum couldn't have even spent a moment with my other friend, because she had her own problems that were insurmountable to face, and she couldn't have faced helping another person with these horrendous levels of darkness and crying and depression and sadness that comes as a consequence of a woman just losing her husband. You know, so we've got to heal ourselves, and then one day we're the redeemer for somebody else, aren't we? Now my friend says, you know, she calls us like, you have absolutely been my salvation. She uses those words over and over again. You have been my salvation in this experience. What's she saying? You have redeemed me from the depths of hell I am experiencing at this time. Why? Because we had to go through a healing process. We unbandaged our wounds one by one and got to ourselves to a level of healing where we've now been able to help somebody else who will then go on and help somebody else. And that's how it works. Okay, and it's as simple as that. Heaven on earth is as simple as that. Okay, comforting the mourners, being kind to the widows. It doesn't get more glorious than that, you know. He is clean, filled. So this is the leper who is declared clean. We've gone and talked about this a lot. 1084, it's linked to all this. Okay. Yotewaweh is Elohim. This is the unity between heaven and earth. So heaven is the word Yotewaweh, earth, and also, you know, the left-hand side of divinity, right-hand side of the divinity. Yotewaweh Elohim. Yotewaweh Hu Elohim. This is the name of God at the level of Keter that unites two opposites, heaven and earth, together as one. Okay? You know, this is like what I was just saying. We've got some pretty harsh realities to consider when we are down here on earth. If we've got the spark of the name Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh operating within us, we have got, and it's as if we're able to unite heaven and earth together. And the power to unite heaven and earth together is this name Hu, which means He. Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, He is God. And like I say, that's at the level of Keter, which is at the level of Yechida, which is the soul of Moshiach ben Yosef, who is the one sat in the gates of Rome, bandaging his wounds one by one. We imitate him also, because he comes in the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. He's a perfect example of what we should be doing, how we should be living our life, the way we should be thinking. And obviously the sages knew something regards Moshiach and this whole concept of Moshiach ben Yosef and Yeshua. They must have known. They definitely knew. They've left us a trail or a trace of this knowledge for us to learn today. So that is the power of Yechida, or the power of Keter, is the power that unites opposites, body and soul, heaven and earth, Israel and the nations, Jacob and Esau, male and female. Okay. 111, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? We're going through this whole process in ultimately to reveal that unity between heaven and earth, between male and female. Okay, what is this in accordance to 938 Torah? It's all got to be done in a Torah-based way, not in unholy ways. No healing will come in a unholy way. You've got Torah here, the Torah and the regular, which is exactly the same as regular for Yeshua. Add them together. You've got the square ordinal of Torah. You've got the square regular of Torah. Add all those together, that number, and that number, it comes to 201,670, which is 215 times 938. So we linked back. The entire concept of Torah is back to this one phenomenal piece of wisdom that we have been given to show us how we can prepare for redemption. Okay? Simple ways. We've got that power within us today. We can do this today. We can unbandage. We can do something to help change a bandage that we have got in our own lives today. You know, it goes on. When you're looking in Sanhedrin 98, it says, when will the Moshiach come? Today. He's told the Moshiach will come today. Okay, and we've got to have that mentality. We sort our little problems out. Moshiach can come within our lives, be revealed within our lives today. Okay, according to Torah. So this is Torah spelled out, comes to 938. So 938 is a massive link to Torah. What's this 101 symbolic of? That's the symbolic of Michael, the advocate, who's opposite Satan, the accuser. He's got to advocate for humanity. Not just got to say, oh, look at them people, they're suffering because they've been punished of God. They deserve to be punished of God. Honestly, you hear this mentality all the time. It's like, okay, so we're all afflicted. Even Moshiach himself is afflicted. He's in the depths of exile with us. What can we do to bring about a remedy? Because that person who we're thinking is afflicted and oppressed and plagued of God could be Moshiach himself. Get on and do what you should be doing according to Torah. Acts of kindness and advocate for humanity. Don't be Satan's child and accuse. There's a difference between being on the left-hand side of divinity and an accuser, doing the work of Satan in this world, and being an advocate for humanity, saying, okay, so, right, we're not perfect people, we fall down, we make problems, perhaps we bring curses upon ourselves, perhaps we bring judgment upon ourselves, but at the end of the day, that person's in a place and they need our help. Help. Okay, because that's exactly what Moshiach is suffering for, so he can be in a place where he's able to help. And 101 is Michael, like I've said, it's talking about being on the right hand side of divinity. Just do acts of kindness. If you're not sure, be kind. If you're not sure what to do, be kind, think kind, do kind, speak kind. Because you'll be like him, you'll be like Moshiach if you do. And the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Okay, so as we can see, look at the connections here. We're talking about this whole trying to rectify this problem with the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. How do we rectify this? We rectify this through Torah, not through taking psychedelic drugs. Okay, but like I say, there is room to take healing leaves in order to heal. We do need to go through a healing process. Nothing wrong with that, as long as it's a means to an end, so that we can become like redeemers instead of thinking in terms of this. Oh, if only I had £1 million, if only God would give me £1 million, then would it? It's just no. You're empowered to do acts of kindness, and that is a false gospel that you're. A false hope that you've got. You need to just simply heal and then be able to be part of somebody else's healing process. That is the whole point and purpose of Torah. And through that act of kindness, you will reveal the name Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh as opposed to conceal him. And you'll reveal him in the lowest places in earth possible. Right, so the tree of knowledge of good and evil is rectified with the Torah. And it's rectified with this mentality. Okay, this mentality is opposite this. Okay, Moshiach ben David, that is a consequence of crossing over the Sambatian River, going from a place of concealment and judgment and accusation to a place of kindness and revelation and advocacy. Okay, being understanding. Maybe because we've had to suffer it ourselves and we've had to grow in wisdom and understanding and knowledge. So, okay, so we've got that connection. This is opposite, isn't it? But you can't have one without the other. We started off with the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. We've got to end with the tree of life, which is the name Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh revealed. Tree of knowledge of good and evil is the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh concealed. That's as simple as it gets. We've got to go from the concealment to the revelation. We've got to be like these. Look, these are the three names for people who are able to see. What can you see? They can just see clearly beyond all this masquerade called exile. You can see beyond it into the heart of the matter. They can see the Moshiach revealed, and they've passed on that knowledge to us. They see the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, and they are able to speak about it. And what they see, they are able to communicate to us. There are three main words for these people: the Navi, the prophet, the Roeh, the visionary, and the Chazeh, the seer. They are able to see. Okay, it comes to an ordinal of 73, comes to a square ordinal of 301, 426 and 138, comes to 865, add them up together, 300 and 938. What can they see? And we can all access these. It's just opening our eyes, basically. It's been opening our eyes, and the more kind we are, and the more we are doing the more we are acting like Moshiach, because we've followed the wisdom that has been laid down by the sages for us, in accordance to Torah, And the more we are aware of the contrary, unholy ways that we could act and avoid acting in such a manner, the more clearly we will be able to see, you know. And so we've all got the ability to be prophets, to be visionaries, and to be seers. Seers of what? Seers of the hidden name Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh in this exile, you know, and seer of the provision that is made in order to redeem us. Ein od milvado, there is nothing beside him. When we are able to transform these horrendous situations that we've all faced during exile and into something that goes from sickness to healing and from slavery to redemption, then we can then say, can't we, Ein od milvado, there is nothing beside him, and that's the place what we are heading towards. This is the ultimate goal, to say there's nothing beside him. Even the bad that was experienced is only for an ultimate good, to reveal his name and to show that there's only really him and nothing else beside him. Right, I didn't quite finish. Let me just go back. I should have used this one, sorry, to take us back. So we have gone, what have we gone through? We have gone through, and Noach became a man of the earth. I'm going to quickly go through the rest now. Who in the heavens is equal? 1,382. Who in the heavens is equal? Me, these are the initial letters spell Moshiach ben Yosef. Okay, who in the heavens is equal? Moshiach ben Yosef is equal. That's who's equal. And this is all connected to Jerusalem. It's also connected to the grave of Moshe. And also it shows that Moshe is actually buried in his perfection. He's buried in Jerusalem, the place where Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh desires to set his name, to place his name. Why? Because Moshe represents his name, Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, and we should be like that. We should imitate his name just like Moshe. Okay, I did a whole teaching on that recently, 1,240. If I remember, I'll try and put the link in the, or some information about that in the comments where you can access that. It's really good. It's one that I did recently. Really very fascinating stuff. It's all about behold thy son and things like that. Moshiach ben Yosef. So these are the 5 aspects of Moshiach that represents the 5 aspects of his name, Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. So Moshiach ben Yosef, Moshiach ben David, Moshe, Yaakov and Sarach, which is the final letter here. They come to all that. I'm not going to go through them numbers because we need to get to the bottom of this. So this is the Mispar Gadol of all these, the Mispar Gadol of these different aspects of the Moshiach, and this is the Mispar Gadol when they've got the rectified names. So that's David, and then that's David rectified, that's Yaakov, and then that's Yaakov rectified, and we get a slightly different total. If we add all this all up, that is the ordinals up. No, let me just think now. Oh no, if we add the ordinals of both of these up, and we add the regulars of both of these up, okay. And by the way, if you do the regulars, it's 21 times 386, so that's 21 times Yeshua. So the sum total of the Moshiach is expressed through Yeshua. Okay, so we add the ordinals and regulars of both sets of these. It comes to 11 times 806, which is connected to this number up here. Accounted him as plagued, smitten by God and oppressed. So this is really Moshiach ben Yosef, and that's why it's highlighting that aspect of it that's linked to Moshiach ben Yosef, the Mispar Gadol numberings. So that is 2 times that, isn't it? 1612 is 2 times 806. So we see the link back to this whole concept of the suffering servant with us. The Moshiach in the gates of Rome, bandaging his wounds one by one, is the summation of the entire, all aspects of the Moshiach that reveal the name Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. You want to reveal the name Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, sort out the problems that you've been given to sort out, and then you'll be able to sort other people's problems out as a consequence. That's what it is to be Moshiach, to go from a place of concealment to a place of revelation. And then we can see this is connected here. If we take the regular and the ordinal of both these, the 5 aspects of Moshiach, add them together, 8,106. which is 2 times 4053, 6 times 1351. We've got this concept, Yeshua Sah, happening, which is the top of the ladder. When we reach the top of the ladder of the angels of exile are going up and down upon, the ladder of Yaakov that goes between heaven and earth, we see the face Yeshua Sah happening. Okay, Prince of the Faces. He really represents the countenance of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. We obviously can't see Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh face to face, but we see his representative, which is Moshiach, face to face, and in him we see Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh face to face to the capacity that we're able to still live. Okay, so that's connected up to here, as we can see. That's why I've included it, because it's connected back up to here. We need to reveal him. Square ordinal of Mordecai. He was another redeemer, weren't he, for the house of Israel when they were in Babylon. Okay, square ordinal 806, connected up to here, and also connected to here. So he's also connected to the whole concept of Moshiach ben Yosef. Okay, and how Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh works in a very hidden way, and he's obviously he overcomes is able to overcome Amalek, doubt, and doubt is the primary force that we will face. What do we have doubt in? We have doubt in who we are. We have doubt in our capacity to be like Moshiach. We have doubt in our capacity to remember that we are made in the image of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. Because when we are sat in the gates of Rome covered in bandages, we feel like we are Romans, poor, smitten, plagued and oppressed. We forget who we really are, and we forget what we've really got to do. Okay, Mordecai was put in a very difficult situation, but he never forgot. Even Esther had to go and be hidden and concealed in the palace of the king, Achashverosh, and yet she didn't forget who she was. And when the time was right, they was both able to unite and bring an end to this all power called Amalek, doubt, in order to reveal that there's only Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh and nothing else beside him, even when he's working in a very hidden, concealed way. Okay, Tzion, which is an appellation for Moshiach ben Yosef. Why? Because it's got the exact gematria of Yosef. Okay, and it's also 2 times 102, and 102 is Emunah. 806 is the Mispah Gadol of Zion. So 806 is linked to here. It's all about Moshiach ben Yosef, Zion. Okay, Yerushalayim represents Moshiach ben Dawid. Zion represents Moshiach ben Yosef. Upon the face of the deep. Okay, Al-Panim Tahom. And this Tahom, the deep, is the also code name for Edomite exile. Okay, upon the face of the exile that we are now hovers the spirit of Moshiach. The spirit of Moshiach, which is the Ruach Elohim that hovers upon the face of the deep. Okay, so there's all connections there. Even though we are experiencing the depth of exile, the spirit of Moshiach is hovering above that, drawing out the holy sparks trapped within that experience. Okay, bandaging his wounds, but not forgetting who he is, so that he one day will be acting as a redeemer for somebody else. All humanity, in fact. Right, Gan Eden. So that's what number have we got here? Let's have a look where we got that from. Okay, so I think I've knocked off something, haven't I? Okay, so the Mispah Gadol square ordinal is 1531. So Mispah Gadol square ordinal when the nun is a 25 instead of a 14. Okay, so that comes to 1531, which is this number here. The square ordinal is 673. So when the nun is a 14, add them both together, 1531 plus 673, 2204, 4 times 551. It's linked back up to here, look. 822, which is the regular, plus the Mispah Gadol numbering comes to 2204, which is exactly linked to Gan Eden. How do we access Gan Eden? Through doing this and acting like Moshiach when we're faced with this. Okay. Undoing our bandages one by one. The grave of Moshe. The grave of Moshe is buried in his perfection. Okay. And like I say, it's linked. It's definitely linked up to this number up here also. Right, I'll try and definitely put in the comments why, so you can see for yourself. 1102 is linked to here, and it's linked to there. Moshe's perfection is revealed. He's buried where he's buried in his defect. The reason why we think he's buried in the plains of Moses is because we think that somehow the concept of Moshiach is defective. We think that Moshe did something defective. The concept of Moshiach is perfect. That's why he's actually buried in Jerusalem. Okay? But this is not yet fully revealed because we're stuck with a suffering servant, and it looks like it's all defective. But within that defect is the perfection revealed itself. Okay, it's just for us to reveal that perfection. Okay, so that is linked up to that as well. All this that we are going through is part of an utter and absolute perfection, but we have not had that perfection yet fully revealed. Nor have we had the perfection of the Moshiach fully revealed, nor have we had the perfection of Moshe fully revealed, but we know that he is perfect because we don't know where he's buried. Why don't we know he's buried? Because you're buried in your defect, and I've talked about this when I've gone about talking about the Gichon. You're buried in your defect, so nobody knows where Moshe is buried. Why? Because he's not defective. It appears that he's defective, but he truly isn't. He's perfect, and it will come a time at the final redemption where that perfection will be revealed. And guess what? We are all sharing in that perfection with him, because we are all contained within his soul. We are all a part of the soul of Moshiach, and our perfection will be revealed with his perfection. Okay, it's all glorious stuff. In the beginning of God's creation of the heavens and earth. Okay, so this very first verse of Torah, how is it connected? Let me see. All right, so this here, I counted him as placed, smitten by God and oppressed. 2,653, which is the regular and ordinal, plus the Mispagadol regular and ordinal. And it's linked back to the very first verse in Torah, because this is the regular and ordinal and the Mispagadol regular and ordinal. Add them all up together. They come to 7,959, which is 3 times 2,653, linked up to here. Okay, utterly and absolutely glorious, whichever way you would look at it. And with that, I will say, Shalom. Please subscribe.